Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we're here for another poetry discussion in honor of National Poetry Month. 30 poetry discussions in 30 days here on the channel. Now, we are here with some Charles Bukowski today. But if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, if you appreciate the work that I put in, hitting the like button tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers, and I would appreciate that. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature's the only thing I talk about on this channel. Poetry, short stories, novels, writing, all of that sort of thing. So consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more. And if you really, really love me, and I know that you do, there is a link to my personal channel to be found in the description below. I am currently merely 40 subscribers away from 1,000 over there. That's where I talk about movies, I talk about philosophy, I do um, video essays, things like that. But we are here for a poem today called Poem for My 43rd Birthday from Charles Bukowski. The poem itself reads as such: to end up alone in a tomb of a room without cigarettes or wine, just a light bulb and a pot belly, gray-haired and glad to have the room. In the morning they're out there making money. Judges, carpenters, plumbers, doctors, newsboys, policemen, barbers, car washers, dentists, florists, waitresses, cooks, cab drivers. And you turn over to your left side to get the sun on your back and out of your eyes. I'm not quite 43, not quite, but it is strange to be creeping up on 40 when I never really thought I'd get here, never really thought I'd get this far. But so the thing that I want to talk about here, poetry, one of the hallmarks of poetry, of good poetry, is when so I think a lot of amateur writers, I don't necessarily mean that as a condescending term. I mean, what I mean by it is I think a lot of writers who are learning their craft believe, because they have found all of these other writers that they love, and they're all different. They believe that in order to be a writer, you have to write those things that make you different from everyone else. Only Chuck Palahniuk could have written Fight Club. Only Ernest Hemingway could have written The Short Happy Life of Francis Macomber. These are insights into these things. Only Emily Dickinson could have written I Died for Beauty, but was scarce suggested in the tomb. Only these authors could have written these things. But the thing in the work that makes that work stand the test of time, that makes that work great, is not the Chuck Palahniuk, the Ernest Hemingway, the Emily Dickinson. It is the universal in that work. Every young person at some point feels that need to lash out. Fight Club. There are so many things that make writers unique, but that uniqueness is only useful insofar as it points back to the universal. There is an interesting definition for creativity, and I got this from Andrew Huberman on YouTube in one of his videos about creativity, and he says that the hallmarks of being truly creative, the real hallmarks of being creative, are not simply novelty. He gives the example, I believe, it's been a long time since I've heard this one, but I believe he gave the example of an aquarium with wings. Oh, yeah, it's kind of different, right? You got your aquarium designed and it's got wings on the side. Okay, it's got fish inside, but it's got bird on the outside. The wings on an aquarium. That is different but it's not particularly creative in that the wings serve no purpose. The true definition of creativity is to be novel and useful. So, in this way, the novel part of a writer is only creative insofar as it points back to the useful part of writing. The useful part of writing is the big picture of what makes all of us tick, the universal nature of being human. And the reason I bring this up, the reason I start this conversation here with this poem, this is a very Bukowski poem, right? This is a very Bukowski poem. I'm laying in bed and I'm being a failure, and so many people are out there, but I'm wallowing, wallowing, wallow in your own self-pity, wallow in your own, whatever it is. I am just bathing in this disgustingness of me. But there is something universal in it. What is it about laying in bed that makes us feel like a failure? What is it about laying in bed? It's only when you're laying in bed that you truly feel you've wasted the entirety of your life. It's only springing to life at 3 in the morning that you realize, oh, this last decade has been 10 years of nothingness for me. I haven't grown at all. It's only when laying in bed that the true philosophy of saying, hey, I got nothing happens. It's only when laying in bed that the true philosophy of saying, ooh, is there any real point moving on? Is only there that happens. Now, you can drag that with you into the day. It's very easy to drag that with you into the day, but it always happens laying in bed. And shut up, computer. I wonder if there is universality. I wonder if it is sort of a real thing that this poem happens while Charles Bukowski appears, while our speaker, I shouldn't say Charles Bukowski, while our speaker appears to be alone in bed. Because I wonder, I think, should I posit here? POSIT. Is there something? So this is a poetry discussion, not a poetry review, right? I'm not decoding the poem. I think that it is necessary to have separate spaces for that. What I'm doing here is saying, here's a leaping off point, this poem. What do we think of when we read it? Is there something to the fact that he is alone, or seemingly alone, in this poem? Would it be easier on the individual figuring themselves to be a failure if the individual had woken up and found themselves next to someone else? Is there comfort in the fact that um, if this individual is laying here having these thoughts, I'm kind of worthless, other people are out there making money, let me feel let me be here, but feel the sun on my back instead of in my eyes. Because if we have someone else there, if we are not alone, is it someone admitting that they are on the same level as you that makes it okay? I'm the same type of loser. We can waller here together. Or perhaps more cynically, if we're laying there with someone else and we're realizing the fact that I'm 43 and I've wasted my whole life, we get to blame that other someone. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for her. I would have done more if it weren't for her or him, right? I don't know. But we don't have that here. We don't. We have this speaker seemingly alone. And so there is a short story from Hemingway called The Killers. And it is two sort of mafioso type henchmen on the lookout for a boxer, Ole Anderson. And they go into this diner that they know Ole Anderson always goes to, and they sit and they wait for him. They tie up the cook, they tie up the waiter, they tie up the owner, and eventually Ole Anderson never comes in, so they cut them all loose and say, screw it, we'll be back. We'll be back. Well, the waiter knows Ole Anderson, the boxer. He was a boxer. Apparently, he was supposed to throw a fight, and he didn't. He went in there in the heat of the battle, he knocked the other guy out, or whatever it was. I don't think the story goes into specifics about that. But at the end of the short story, what happens is that the waiter goes to Ole Anderson's apartment and says, they're looking for you. You have to get out. And Ole Anderson says, screw them. They'll find me. And he rolls over to face the wall instead of the door. It's the same thing we have at the end of this poem. Ole Anderson in that story is also alone. Ole Anderson is laying in the bed that he made. Here we have our speaker laying in the bed that he has failed to make. And the light staring into the sun, well, that just reminds us how much of a failure we are, because we are stuck inside while the sun is coming in through the windows, hitting us in the eye, reminding us that all of those dentists and florists and waitresses and cooks and cab drivers, they're outside. And we're not. We're laying here. We're laying here. And rolling over, so that sun, that warmth, light is purity. Light is cleansing. Light is vision. Light is truth, right? When it's hitting us in the eyes, it is the truth. It is the cleansing of nature. It is the vision that it takes to be a human being. But when we roll over and we face the wall, it goes from that cleansing and light and truth and vision, and it becomes simply warmth. It becomes simply warmth and comfort, as if our speaker here were getting a great big hug. But there's no one there to hug our speaker. Instead, our speaker is laying in bed taking the warmth from nature. Sort of a pathetic poem, right? So why read it? Well, because there is that universal nature to it. This is pathetic in the most Bukowski way possible. This is pathetic in the sense that we know what a grown man at 43 should be doing. You're nearing the height of your earning capabilities. The American economy. A 43-year-old man should be earning about the most money he ever will. But our speaker is not. So feel bad about yourself, right? You're supposed to. At least every once in a while, but probably most of the time. That's what we get from Bukowski. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you enjoy what I'm doing here, hitting the like button really does help me out here on the channel. If you are here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing that I talk about on this channel. I talk about poetry. Every Monday, we have poems. Every Monday, there's poetry on Stripped Coverlet. There is short stories. There's a series of short story discussions and reviews here on the channel, as well as novel read-alongs. So if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button, and I hope to have you back for the next one.